You want it? We have it. The hottest mortgage and real estate strategy broadcast in the nation. A Smarter Way Home with your host, Danielle Boote and Victor Bals. 50 years combined experience, ranked in the top 1% in the nation for home loan originations 2020. Promise to expand your knowledge, utilizing creative mortgage financing and home buying strategies. Build a bridge for a better quality of life. Get your brain cells firing for a smarter way home. And welcome to another episode of A Smarter Way Home. Modern mortgage solutions and strategies for consumers and real estate professionals alike. My name is Victor Bals. I am your host. It is St. Patrick's Day 2022, and it is a beautiful day in Detroit here with a high of 65 degrees, and we're all feeling good here. But before we get on with the show, I want to introduce my co-hostess with the mostest, loan officer extraordinaire, Mrs. Danielle Boote.
Oh, hello, Victor. You're so cute today. You're a little more animated a little bit later in the day, aren't you?
I've got a tie. I've got a green tie.
Okay,
on.
lots of energy.
Yeah, and I've never seen a I've never ever been out for St. Patrick's Day.
Neither have I.
I've never went out.
Neither have I, not one time. I've never had green bear.
But I guess we are going out.
We might today.
We're going out to lunch after the show.
Yeah.
So
if we can hopefully find a seat.
Well, and we've got Monica out there finding a seat for us right now. So anyway, Danielle, what do we have in store today?
So I am super excited to introduce JoJo and Paul Dries. They are a dynamic husband and wife loan officer team that joined us almost a year ago. And they bring a very unique background. And I'll let them explain it, where they kind of came from, how they became loan officers, joined us, and kind of what their passions are in the business. So it's a great story, and we're super excited to have you here.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. We're really honored to be here and honored to be
And I love
team.
all the green.
Yeah,
You rock the
green.
hat.
And
I've never thought about the hat with the earphones. That's
I had
kind
to
of
put it
cool.
over
bad.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
You almost look like Kid Rock a little bit. And also Paul brought Guinness beers here. We're sitting there at the podcast. We got Guinness beers.
Cheers.
I've never tried a Guinness in my life. It's that dark beer. So,
Yes.
so we're going to talk.
We're all a little Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
And which is funny because the whole St. Patrick's Day thing is really an American version of the holiday. The Irish people, I think, look at Americans going, what are you guys doing? Dressing like fools.
What is the
beer.
actual meaning of St. Patrick's Day, if I may ask? Does anybody really know the truth?
Well, the Irish culture is predominantly Catholic. They're a mix of Catholic and Protestantism, but predominantly Catholic. So if you look at the tradition of St. Patrick's Day, it is rooted in the Catholic Church to celebrate St. Patrick, who literally drove snakes out of Ireland, wasn't it? I mean, that's literally, he saved the people.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a myth or.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's what kind of
we
we
brought Catholicism, Christianity to
Ireland. Yeah. And I think they're like, what are they, 60 or 80% Catholic as a country?
As a country, right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's really a Catholic thing that became, it's like everything in America, we put the spin on it.
We do.
You take Christmas becomes Santa Claus.
Yeah.
We got
Easter.
leprechauns and Easter bunnies.
Well, Easter, because that kind of freaks me out because I go, why do we got Easter eggs delivered by a bunny? They have no shouldn't it be a chicken? No, really, shouldn't it be an Easter chicken? They're the ones laying the eggs. That's how I figure it. But,
okay, well, we'll tackle that
bunnies
question.
are very prolific. Bunnies are very prolific.
Okay, we will tackle the Easter thing at another podcast. We don't have time for that.
We'll come
today.
back for Easter.
Come back, yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't sure that we would tackle the whole St. Patrick's
I'll
Day
do the
thing.
research and bring back the facts.
Okay. Okay, JoJo and Paul, you're gonna have to come back now.
We are.
Anyway, so JoJo, let's let our audience know, what do you do, why do you do it, and where'd you come from?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us here. We're very honored to be here, very honored to be on the team. What we do is we provide mortgage solutions to our clients. So we see ourselves as mortgage coaches versus just here, let's peddle a low rate or low terms or low cost. It's about the best strategy for each client. How we got here, we each have a different story, so I'll tell mine a little bit first. 20 years ago, I owned a mortgage brokerage and a real estate firm. With that,
You say 20 years ago?
Yep, about 20 years
So you've been
ago.
doing this quite a long time.
Yes.
Okay.
We had a family business. As some family businesses go, that one didn't work out. So because of that, I sort of left the business, left the industry. I had grown the real estate business, the mortgage business to its point where it could, be very successful. Then I left the industry, reconnected with the love of my life, Paul. And
Reconnected. Wait a minute. Go down that rabbit hole.
okay.
So what is that all about? You mean you were connected and
Tell
then
the
you
story.
reconnected?
Tell the story.
So 25 years ago or whatever, well, we grew up, we were childhood sweethearts. It was, he was the love of my life. I said I was going to marry this guy when I was 9 or 10. And so then fast forward a few years, we were best friends growing up. I crushed on him in our early 20s. He finally saw me as a woman versus a girl. And he said, hey, I would like to take you out. Went to my dad. My dad said, no, never. You'll never marry this guy. It's not going to happen. You need to marry an Arabic guy. I said, because I come from a Lebanese background. I said, no, this is the guy I love. And he said, it's never going to happen. So fast forward 3 years to that. We dated, didn't tell anyone, fell madly and deeply in love. We went to my dad, said, we'd like your blessing to get married. He said, choose him or us. If you choose him, you'll never see us again. Your siblings, your mom. If you choose us, you have to say goodbye to him forever. So at the time, I said goodbye to him forever, or so I thought.
And
Yep.
like we never thought we'd see each other again. It was terrible.
Yep, broke our hearts. It was, but it was my catalyst to say, okay, I need to become an independent woman away from my family, away from that whole patriarchal situation. When I did that, it was 3 years later. I moved out, got an apartment, went on Match.com to find a match to go to a wedding with because I didn't want to go alone. And Match.com matched me with him as the match of the day.
Wow.
Yes, after we had not talked for 3 years and never thought we'd see each other ever again.
Really? That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I understand about that whole family thing. My wife is Japanese, and we had a lot of trouble getting them to buy into me taking her out of her country and marrying an American person. But it all worked out really well.
And we were just talking, we spent 10 years ago today, we spent St. Patrick's Day in Chicago, and it was like a 75-degree day, just like today.
Just like today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this is where I bought this hat.
Oh.
So we got a lot of memories.
And you have 2 boys.
Two
do,
amazing
yeah.
children.
Okay, so let's go back to this was 10 years ago. You guys hooked up because you were going to a wedding, right?
Yeah, so I went on Match to find a date to take to a wedding. I didn't want to go alone. My family wasn't talking to me because I'd moved out.
And I was looking for a date, and we both went on Match.com at the same time, and it matched us up with the top probability of success.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk about fate.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the whole online dating thing, like that was before my time, but you just go, wow, that is a wild story.
It is.
Yeah, it was meant to be. I mean, it was a 96% match. Oh, and at the time I was living in Ann Arbor, I had just moved to to Oakland County, and my miles radius was even too short. And even that didn't prevent Match from matching us. But then we eloped. So that was 10 years ago. I got back in the business.
Well, hold on, man. I got before
yeah.
you go down that thing. I'm wondering about the family. So you guys eloped, and then you had to give him the good news card at some point. What the hell happened then?
Well, he told my family, so he tried to reconcile me with my family. So we reconnected in September. So October and November of that year, we were like, okay, we're going to get back with the family. It's all going to be fine. All the family was like, all right, this is meant to be. It's God, it's fate.
Yeah. They were like, how can we deny this? The fact that you guys got rematched.
And they got 2 grandkids.
Yeah.
Well,
and then what happened
unfortunately.
is, so he proposed to me on Christmas Eve because my dad told him the day before, he said, hey, if you do this, if you propose to my daughter, again, he went through the whole control situation.
Yeah.
We're never going to talk to you again, et cetera, et cetera. So we spent, the holiday without my family. We eloped in February. We called them and told them. We tried to reconcile again. We did a big party in August.
So we did a full renewal of our vows, reception. We paid for the whole thing, 300 people at a country club.
That had to
very
hurt.
expensive. Yeah, it was very painful. But we're so happy we did it. But her family, we invited her family, and her dad came. And
really,
when I was giving a speech,
he wouldn't walk me down the aisle.
He wouldn't walk her
dance
down, wouldn't dance. And then when I was giving a speech, he turned his back on me, in front of everybody. Made a huge spectacle.
A huge drama.
My family
at your party.
At
our party to celebrate our wedding.
Wow.
So then through the last 10 years, we've tried back and forth. I've tried to reconcile with my siblings. When we had the babies, I would drive all the way down to Ann Arbor from Rochester, try to, I'd stop on the side of the road to nurse, just to get there. And no, they still don't talk to us. It's unfortunate. But I'll text my mom every now and again and just say, hey.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah. After all this time and after you guys have stuck together, proving you're a man that's going to stand by his woman.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, isn't that what we all want?
Yeah.
Is everybody to
you want
stay
your
together.
Kids, you want your kids to be happy. I mean, he's made me so happy, and we have 2 kids later. And they're amazing.
And our 2 boys, we think about them growing up, we would want them to be in happy relationships, happy, stable relationships.
And you wouldn't deny them.
We wouldn't want to deny that. Exactly.
Oh,
well, it's as a parent, my kids are older, but you go, okay, you want your children to be happy. I've got 2 children that are already married, right? And we had to get to know our son-in-laws and build relationships. And is it scary as a parent, right? Sure. Especially with a girl, you go, okay, are you going to take care of my daughter? Is this because and you go, it's a wonderful thing to see as they mature, but you have to go, okay, it's not at some point as a mother or a father, you go, you can have an opinion, right? Yep. But you have to let your children go out and live their life, make their choices, hopefully not make too many mistakes. We can't wrap them in bubble wrap. And, but if you take it from a cultural standpoint, and there's always been cultural divides, okay? Regardless of where you came from. My family is of Eastern European descent, and we grew up in Chicago. And back in Chicago, it was, the neighborhoods were very segregated. Detroit was similar. The Polish people lived here, the German people lived here, the Jewish people lived here. And my grandmother told me that she remembered growing up as a child that there were 2 Catholic churches right across the street from each other. Wow. Think of the Chicago churches. They were huge. One was German Catholic, one was Polish Catholic. And nobody knew each other. They were neighbors. They lived in the same neighborhood. They went to separate churches. And there were cultural issues when the German kids...
When they integrated
with the Polish kids and started marrying. They called them Kashubs. Now, I have never had anybody tell me what Kashub meant.
Actually means.
But I don't think it was a positive term if,
Does anybody know what it means?
No, I don't know.
I'm going to have to look that up.
They may have to bleep it out.
So my grandparents were probably born in the 1920s. Yeah, I've never Googled it,
Grant's Googling Kashub right now.
Don't say it again.
Not until Grant gets back with us.
But you talk about, look at Irish immigrants. I mean, look at the long history of the Irish immigrants in the 1800s. They were not treated well by other people. And you look back at America's history, we are a melting pot, and everybody was an immigrant. We all came from somewhere, whether it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago. My husband's family was here prior to the Civil War. My family immigrated in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. They came not speaking any language, but you go, okay, is it okay? But you know what? Okay, Jim's American, I'm American, right? We don't really identify with where our families came from because we're a couple generations removed. My family wasn't happy either that I dated a guy that was 8 years older. And, I found out, I ran into a cousin last summer. Of all things on Mackinac Island. And he had just came back from Germany because he's in the Army and he's living in San Antonio now. But he actually said and he's about 10 or 11 years younger than me. So, and I was the oldest grandchild, but he remembers as a child. So he's now hearing it maybe from his parents and the rest of the aunts and uncles. They were not happy. He looked at Jim and goes, nobody was happy that you were going to marry Danielle. This boy from Detroit, the hood. And I'm like, well, now that I'm an adult, I look back at that and go, okay, I was 19 years old when I met my husband. No, they were not happy. And I don't blame them because if somebody came knocking on my door for one of my 19-year-old daughters, but it works out, right? But
Well, one of my big things, if you don't mind my just saying, so one of the customers that I just love helping, are females that are either are going through a divorce and have had a really hard situation in that divorce, or are refinancing into their own name, or their husband may have died and they're finally getting their independence. And the reason for that is because my journey from where it was to where it is now, the self-empowerment that it took, to get to this point, it's exciting. I was just talking to a business professional yesterday, and we were talking about empowering other women and what that looks like in the financial world, because finances are the crux and the core of so much of our society.
It is. Well, it is everything.
It's everything. Homes, home buying, refinancing,
Quality of life, stress levels.
It's stress levels. And that financial independence is such a huge thing for me. And I find myself really gravitating in clients that gravitate towards me.
Well, I can see that your journey is you're not only advising on mortgages and financial type situations. You're almost a coach because you can relate and connect to everything that they're going through. And boy, I commend you for that. That's
So one of the exciting things that JoJo has done recently, working with some of the local Chamber of Commerce's out in Oakland County, is she is doing women's financial seminars with a CPA, a financial advisor, a realtor. So not just looking, it's not just home buying. It's like whatever
the big picture.
What is the big picture and how do we need to educate people? And we've talked on all levels that financial education is one of the least taught things in America, regardless of your age group, regardless of where you've come from, college educated, not college educated, people don't know how to function financially. So to take that knowledge into that passion based on your background, and you and I, not that we have some similarities. So my backstory as a woman is that I grew up in a 2-parent household. My dad was diagnosed with cancer when he was 28 years old, died when he was 30. Okay. My mom was 28 years old, widowed with 3 children. I was the oldest. Okay. My mom never worked more than a part-time job. She was a stay-at-home mom. My dad always worked 2 jobs to support the family, and now he died. Right. I didn't grow up poor. Now, when I look back at it, but I knew we just had enough. We were literally raised for the most part on Social Security, right? My dad's death benefits are what supported us. And by the time I was in my middle teens, I said, you know what? I felt I wanted to be married. I knew I always wanted kids, but I always knew, and I told my mom at a young age, that I'm going to buy a house someday. And I knew and I knew kids that had divorced parents and those struggles, but I also knew other kids that had a parent die. And you go, you know what? My mom's life was not one that she chose. It wasn't one that we chose, and people die. So it didn't matter who I ended up being in a relationship with. I knew that I was always going to be able to support myself and my children. End of story. Yep. And I look at that and go, you know what? I raised my daughters that way. Yes. Very strong, independent women. Not that they can't have a partner in life, but you know what? Life happens, and sometimes it's not pretty, and we need to be able to support, ourselves.
It's surprising that in 2022 that you would think that every woman in America would be on that level, and there's a lot of women out there that are completely dependent on a man and completely clueless when it comes to finances. I
had a girlfriend, very close friend of mine, and in her first marriage, her name was not on the checkbook. Yep. Her husband worked at Ford. She never was on a car. She never had a debit card. Yep. And she was a couple years older than me. Like, we raised our kids together. And I remember when she went through that, I was like, "You're what? You're not. Yeah. You have." She literally got an allowance every week to buy groceries. Now, little did I know 30 years ago, she was in a horribly abusive relationship. I have seen her grow and struggle and grow out of that situation. And she is happily married today, but she's come a long flipping way in the last 20 years to get out of that and to be independent, but to see,
Well, that's why I think it's amazing that I chose Paul too. And I want you to talk a little bit about the title side and the fact that, so it's interesting because our paths were parallel. He's been in banking, he was a private banker at Chase, he ran a title company. And the fact that I got out of an abusive situation, because again, my dad also used to beat us up and all of that stuff, and my older brother and everything. And I can talk about that now without getting super emotional, because I've healed a lot from it. I've done the work to do that. But then I chose a guy who allowed me both the freedom, but also had the same passion and the same motivation for life to succeed. And I think, getting the right partner, whether it's, when you're getting a mortgage, choosing the right loan officer, when you're getting a real estate deal and you've got the right realtor.
Well, it's about your interest too, because he's in title, he's been in mortgage. It's part of the industry, so that it's just a natural progression. Yeah. So Paul, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. How'd you get into that? What brought you guys to the point where you're at today?
Well, as far as upbringing, again, we both grew up in the same church, so same religious background. And then I loved finances from an early age. And so all I wanted to do was get into finances. So that's what I did. And I, rode up the ranks and got into private banking with Chase and JP Morgan, got all my licenses for financial advising and all of that. And I hated it. So I hated going into work every day. Like it just was, I was stuck behind a desk and just didn't feel like I was, getting to my true potential. And, you can ask JoJo, Sunday nights, I'd, basically be in tears because I didn't want to go in Monday morning.
Well, I still do that.
Yeah.
Some weeks, yes.
Some weeks in this business.
I do that on Mondays and Tuesdays.
The Kleenex we go through at the office.
Isn't that the truth?
But it was very like, I felt like I was put in a box in that industry. And so we made the decision that I was going to make a change, and I still wanted to be in, the type of industry. And I made the switch to the title industry and ended up opening up a title office for a title company in Southeast Michigan and grew it from absolutely nothing, no name recognition, to huge revenue just within a couple of years, bringing in big time clients. And so I did that for about 4 or 5 years before.
Well, let's just back up on title and let's explain to our consumers the importance of title and how that relates to this industry so we can progress here.
Sure. So a lot of people, the only thing they know about title is you have to, pay for title insurance. Mm-hmm. And basically what that is making sure that the property that you're purchasing has a clear title so that there aren't any weird claims. So being in the title industry, I saw a lot of strange things that people did with their title. For instance, I had one where mom owned the property and then mom passed away, and the 4 kids decided they were going to do a quitclaim deed into their name, and they recorded it with the county. And so they went to sell the property. So we go and do a title search. We look through the records. We find, it was quitclaimed into their names, but no death certificate was recorded. There was no record that
the mom died.
There was no record for one that the mom died or that they had a claim to that property. They just thought that they could do it, and the county will record it. But if you went to buy that property and didn't have title insurance, you would find out down the road that they did not have the legal ability to actually sell that property. So that sale actually went sideways, and that property had to go into probate. So that went to court to determine who the actual rightful owners were. So that is a very good instance of why you need title insurance.
Is that a definition of a cloud on title?
Yes, that is a cloud on title. Yeah,
absolutely.
So that was one example of many that I've seen, and a lot of times the title is fine. But if you're going to be spending $200-300, the biggest purchase of pretty much anybody's life is a house,
right?
And if you're going to be spending that amount of money, and you don't know for sure that the property is clear, and you're going to run into major legal issues down the road, it's worth the $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever.
I had a client pay cash for a house, and we see this quite often. They will pay cash for a house and say, "I don't need title insurance.
Yes.
It's just an extra cost."
Yep.
I said, "Okay, knock yourself out, man." He went ahead and it was a $350,000 purchase. Didn't get no title insurance. 2 years later, he wants to take cash out of this property. Come to find out, there was a $240,000 lien on that property that he had to pay off. And that
because he's the new owner.
That $1,500 cost him enough to put him in the poorhouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So I think the regular consumers just don't understand how important title insurance and the title process is because they don't see it. It's in the background.
Correct.
And 99% of the time, there's not going to be an issue.
Well, those of us that have been in the industry for years, we could have horror stories. I had a deal years ago that the homeowner owned some property and kept changing the legal description.
Okay.
Multiple times. So like she owned this house and somebody next door owned this, and then there was vacant land here. Well, it was great. She kept changing the legal description. She also kept refinancing, and then she lost the house to the bank. Okay. Back then, I don't know if she had passed away or whatever the situation was. Well, someone comes in, buys the property, thinking they're getting a house in this much land. Nobody did a survey. And then after closing, it was found out somebody shows up on the property and that the now owner thinks is his. And this guy goes, "Oh no, I'm working on buying this from the family." So with all this woman's refinancing and legal description changes, she had taken a large parcel of land, only mortgaged what the house was on, had all these weird extra parcels that never got foreclosed on. So this guy thought he was buying a house on like 5 acres and he ended up getting a house on like 2 acres. And, you know, you go, okay, well, A, you needed a survey, and B, you know, the bank didn't even know what the heck they foreclosed on.
Right.
Because there had been so many crazy title changes.
Right.
And that's a great deal of experience that you can bring to the forefront with your clients as a loan officer.
Absolutely.
And I love to see how you and JoJo work together.
Yes.
Because you're very different personalities.
Yes.
And sometimes you've had clients, for instance, that maybe would refer to JoJo or somebody JoJo knew that Paul handles the loan for.
Yes.
Right.
Maybe it's too close of a friend or an extended family member, or personality wise, you think that they will work better with Paul.
100%. And the title, so we're doing a couple of deals right now where there's a gift of equity. So we could talk about that if you want, but the gift of equity, there's a lot of skill sets I have, but the gift of equity has a lot to do with also the title. And so yesterday I sat with him because we got almost a clear to close, or getting ready to close a deal next week with the gift of equity. And I said, "I need you to run these numbers for me." So he literally sat, and what would have taken me 30 minutes took him like 5.
Yeah. And I have the numbers background, so I'm more
He's
of a
got
numbers
the
guy.
numbers
you know.
and the, all of that knowledge is put to work. So it saves our clients time, it saves them effort, and they've got both of our skill
constantly
set.
going back and forth with ideas, and
Hey, I think you know this better.
experience that I have that she doesn't have, and vice versa. And it's just, so it's like we kind of tell people it's like a 2-for-1. So when you get one of us as a loan officer, it's actually like you have 2 loan officers working for you.
Well, I can see the power of that teamwork because you can get resolution or more of a solution to your borrowers more quickly.
Yes.
To explain how important title is, so they have a full understanding going through the process.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, JoJo, you were talking to me, and I just want to go back to that empowering women.
Yes.
I really want to talk about that and kind of connect that to this financial seminars you're doing.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more on where you're going there, and then also you discussed that a lot of these women are self-employed. You're dealing with a lot of self-employed, and those bring a lot of complexities into a transaction. Tell me where you're going with that and how you can help these people.
We'll touch on the seminars first. So what I did is I've gathered a set of financial experts that are female, both on my side of town as well as really all over the state. And we're doing these panels. So versus like me going and speaking, which I've done before, I'm getting a panel of women to address various parts of your finances in your personal home finances. So whether that's your loan, your stocks and bonds, investments, second homes, whatever it may be. And then the realtor female talks about real estate. What's the market look like? Is it still a good time to buy a home? The different ways to win a bid. Because, as we all know, there's a lot of bids happening, still multiple bids on each property. So we address that. We each give our little 3 to 5 minute spiel, and then we have the audience ask us questions. They've either emailed those questions in or they come equipped with, questions. And what we've seen is consumers across the board are appreciating these seminars. So we have like seniors that are, at that last phase of their life, and they're like, okay, my house is paid for. What do I do now? I have all this cash. Do I liquidate, stocks, buy a second home? Do I do a cash out refinance, use that to buy a second home or an investment? We have, new home buyers that are just like, I had one, it was a young couple with a baby. They've been living with their parents. They're scared to buy. They're like, do I buy now? Do I wait a couple of years? I can stay with my parents. So that was a great, example. I had a divorcee who came in, and she was in the middle of a divorce, crazed about, what do I do? How do I structure this divorce policy, this divorce agreement for my benefit, not just his. So we have all those questions addressed. So I really love that. And I'm finding that people that are referring people to those events are very excited because people are walking away with answers. So my whole thing is answers.
Okay, so in this financial literacy that you're giving people, it's almost like a portfolio. You always want a diverse portfolio. You just go buy one stock, you could crash and burn in a second.
Right.
But if you have a diverse portfolio, you're less risky. And what you're offering your clients is a portfolio in professionals.
Yes.
You've got the loan guy, the title guy, the CPA, the financial planner. And with all that information, they are less probable to hit a roadblock because they're gaining all the knowledge. Is that a fair assumption?
100%. That's exactly it. And then as far as the self-employed, so I'm not trying to scratch anyone's back, but I just want to say thank you to the team, because you guys, the level of education we have.
Well, you're the team on these self-employed ones, Danielle.
But also the level of education you've brought into our company. So not only do I get to pick, Danielle's brain if I have somebody who's self-employed and say, hey, you've been doing this for 30 years. What, how do we structure this? Or she's bringing different things to my, my value add to the client. Or, we've got our underwriting department that's saying, hey, look these are some education or the classes we get to take. So first of all, thank you for that. The education has been, and it goes and passes down to the client, because once I get more educated, I can help my clients better. But yes, self-employed, are an animal unto itself, and they
create more opportunities to solve stuff.
They do. They really do. I love that. And that's what we put ourselves out there. We're a coach, we're a solutions provider. I have one of the top business bankers at one of the top banks in the country referring me self-employed borrowers because her own bank can't handle those loans.
Give me an example of how a bank may look at something and how we may look at something differently.
Well, I think that we're understanding a tax return. And I think banks don't really take the time to look at a tax return and analyze it. Back in the day when we did stated income, stated asset, no one was needing to have that education. Then we got licensed, and now we have to, actually prove to, Fannie and Freddie that this is a purchasable loan.
They are mortgage worthy.
Yes, that they are mortgage worthy. And, a lot of self-employed, sort of shoot themselves in the foot because they don't claim enough income, on their not profit. And so one of the things I've been doing with my self-employed borrowers is helping them set up for success in the future. So maybe you don't qualify for a loan now, but let's do your tax returns and let's talk to your CPA and let's get all the advisors involved to where you're now qualified next year to buy a home or to refinance. They do that to save money on taxes, but then they're not profit, they can't qualify. So I think we have underwriters and team and softwares that understand how to read tax returns. And I think a lot of banks are just like, nope, right off the bat.
Well, if you look at the definition of a loan officer, and Paul can confirm this because you've been actually in banking, many banks, their loan officers are just salary employees. It's not any different than the person that takes, the personal banker that does your deposits and withdrawals.
Exactly.
That person is on a salary. It doesn't matter whether they close 1 loan, 10 loans, 20 loans. I mean, they might have a quota, right? But they're not, in my opinion, they're just And in fact, they also don't have to be licensed. If
They
you
don't
work
have to be
for a
licensed.
bank,
Yep.
Exactly.
you do not individually hold a federal license.
Right.
So
So I could be selling ice cream yesterday, and tomorrow I'm dealing with
100%.
people's lives.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's
So
crazy.
you don't know what you don't know until you dive into it.
Yeah.
Now, I have been in the business so long that the only way we could ever do self-employed tax returns was all by hand. We would take, for instance, the Fannie Mae worksheet. We would take somebody's tax returns and go boom, boom, boom. Here's your numbers. At the bottom of the number, the bottom is the number we divide by 12 that we can give you for monthly income. You know, from where we were 15, 20, even 30 years ago, again, dating myself, we see more complexities in self-employed borrowers. We see more self-employed borrowers. We're seeing self-employed borrowers that own multiple businesses. So when you look from beginning to end, okay, we are running into, you have brought some of the most challenging self-employed borrower situations.
The biggest opportunities.
The biggest
Danielle.
opportunity. Yeah. They were turned down by the bank.
More than one.
More than once. More than once. We have taken people that have been turned down by 2 banks that come in and say, I've got income, I've got assets, I've got great credit. Why can't you give me a loan? Well, we literally peel back the onion. We will spend hours going through everything. And then we determine, hey, we can get these people qualified.
I had the nail salon last year that she was turned down by 4 banks, and we got it done on the first go round.
Yeah.
And they, now she's talking about, buying an investment property this summer.
And her you and I just spoke about her, right? You
Yep.
came and said, look, here, she's thinking about not buying investment property.
Yep.
We've got 2021 tax returns. Her business is booming.
Business is booming.
And
after
it's like,
COVID.
now you're going to coach her up to her next financial growth period and
Exactly.
So
challenge.
she's creating wealth through the vehicle of real estate
Yes.
and proper guidance.
Exactly.
And education and answering people's questions.
Well, going back to the bank. So again, with my experience with the banks, in the hourly employees and all of that, they get a lot of loans come in because a lot of people just go to their
By
bank.
default,
By
I'll go to the bank and get a loan.
That's where I go, right? And so a lot of people do that, and they don't want to do the hard stuff. So that's why they turn down a lot of the hard ones, because they get all the low-hanging fruit. It's easy for them, and they'll hit their quotas with just
Paul,
that.
I got to correct you because it's not necessarily they turn down the hard stuff.
Yeah.
They turn down the, I guess, less popular stuff. They just-
Right. They want everything to be 20% down,
Yes.
800 credit score.
They don't want to do the homework to dig in and find
Exactly.
out there's a loan in there.
Or they don't
How do we
offer the
structure
government
it?
programs. Or again, you don't have the skill set
Right.
to get through somebody's tax returns.
And I have templates. So I think one of the other things, so I have CPAs that refer me their self-employed clients. And this one guy called me and said, you know what? It's a cake. You're making a cake. Give me the ingredients. I'll get you the ingredients. You make the cake.
Right.
He said, I go to the banks and they give me 5 ingredients. Then they say, okay, I need 2 more. Now I need 2 more. He's like, they're not making an efficient cake. The cake's going to be lopsided.
Right.
And I thought that was a great analogy because we have templates. Here's the list of, it might be 15 things. It might be, we had one client come in with a garbage bag.
Yep.
He was kind of like, okay, you need all these documents.
Here's
He
everything.
literally came in with a garbage bag full of
and
documents.
that's one of the things we need to do with our borrowers. If they want a loan, say, look, you're self-employed. That adds opportunities to solve stuff here. And this is going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
You go get this list.
Here's my
and then
list.
I will go to bat for you.
Exactly. And that's
But
what I've been doing.
Isn't it better to be upfront?
Yes.
Be honest and say, look, I'm not going to say this is easy, but if we work together, we'll get it done. One of the things that I
People like
love that
that.
you have done, JoJo, is especially with the complexity of the self-employed borrowers, you have literally told your clients, I need access to your CPA. So explain that a little bit and how that has worked and how it's streamlined the process 100%. And made it so much easier for your borrowers because they're busy business owners. They don't want to deal with
Less garbage bags of documents. You go right through the CPA.
Just go right to the CPA who's got it all online. And so our marketing department is amazing. They even made my lists really pretty, so it's got, all the explanation of what I need and it makes it very concise. And then, So these business owners are like, I don't have time to get that. It's going to take me weeks to gather all that info. And so I started hearing that, and I started saying now in my application interviews, instead of just what is your realtor's name and all of that, what is your CPA's information? Let me contact them, make your life easier. Right. Once you tell a business owner you're about to make their life easier, they're more than happy. And guess what? Like as a loan officer too, that gives me more opportunity to help more people because now I have the CPA's info.
Right. Well, and then also you're like telling the client, let my people work with your people.
Literally.
You know,
you're important, you're busy.
I've been doing this 20 years and I never even thought to have that part of my interview say, hey, give me your CPA's information so I can make this less painful for you.
Plus, you know that you're getting the correct information, the correct documents.
And all schedules.
All
schedules. K1s.
Exactly.
When that garbage bag shows up, the papers are not in order, and you're missing at least 3 things. And the software that we use to underwrite files will tell us, sorry, you're missing page 2 of the K1 from ABC Investment Firm.
We're going to need a bigger bag.
And I do have to give credit. So I know it's all business and all, but I do have to give credit to this guy personally because I get emotional. I see the
garbage bag.
I start crying. I'm like, help! It's either Danielle or Paul that gets the call.
We have a good balance.
I just want to say thank you.
That explains the eyelash problem.
Yes.
What's that?
Tears.
Oh,
Tears.
Yeah. On my foot.
Your post?
Yes.
Oh my God, that was funny.
That freaked me.
Sorry.
One of my eyelashes fell.
So it was late at night one night, and one of her eyelashes, she had either taken off. I don't know what happened, but I go into the kitchen to get a glass of water. It's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm getting ready for bed. I'm tired. I look down, and her eyelash is stuck to the top of my foot, and it looks like a giant black spider. I'm like, I look at her foot up. She hears me like gasp. I'm like,
I would have chopped my leg off.
My heart's racing.
Woke him right up.
You come flying wicked.
Yep. So those tears are plenty.
The joys of being married. It is hard to stay beautiful as a woman.
Yes.
It is. That could be another show.
So you don't tell us to your customers or nothing like that. Wow, that's it. Okay, let's get back to the complexities of these self-employed borrowers. So it sounds like you got a nice little rhythm going on here, and you're building your business because I get the notes and I hear Danielle speaking all the time that, boy, you guys are really taking this to another level. And now I understand you're going to be a Con Ed instructor.
Yes, we're very excited about that. Monica's got us both on the, Con Ed list. And I think, again, our passion, you see these loan officers out there and, just addressing the consumers, numbers are great. Goals are great. We're very excited to crush our numbers. We're very excited to grow our business exponentially. But I think my biggest passion, especially coming from an uneducated background in which, because I was uneducated, I couldn't have control over my own life. So I'm very passionate about educating the consumer.
You got to give to get.
And I think realtors are the same way.
They are.
They want to learn. They want to better their practice. The types of realtors that I love to work with are the ones that are constantly growing, constantly bettering ourselves. So when you and Danielle say, hey, let's take this self-employed class or check out all our classes online, or Encompass now has those ones, on our software. The realtors are the same way. If you find the right realtor, they want to learn. Mm-hmm. And the more that you educate them, the more you and them can work together with the consumer to get the best result for the consumer.
When I come into this business over 20 years ago, I got to admit, I think I was more self-serving. This is about me. I'm going to make a bunch of money. I just got to go get a bunch of loans.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
20 years later, I find myself going, God, I can't wait to teach Con Ed because you actually you enjoy teaching. You're passionate about the business, and you just attract those people who want to learn, and it just becomes an inner circle of like-minded individuals that want to succeed for the best interest of their client. And I go, wow, that was easy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I was in the office for a closing, and Danielle had a younger guy, because I was going to say goodbye and I couldn't say goodbye because she had a younger guy in the office, and I could just see that passion for teaching this guy whatever you were talking about. I was going to knock and say goodbye, but the girls were like, no, like it's a new client or whatever. And that's the passion with which, and so I even was saying for our area, because I know we're out here in Brighton, so we're out in Oakland County. So I was telling Danielle, you know, maybe you and Danielle could also come out and we could do something together to present to those people and introduce, like, here's my branch manager. Here's, you know, we do this together.
Stop right there for a second, because you brought up a good point, because we are all competitors in our business. However, our branch, our people, our culture, our culture is to help each other. We are not threatened by each other at all. We are here to help each other succeed, because that's our well-being. That's what we do, because we got to give to get.
Yep.
And I'm going to enjoy getting with you to do some of these comments.
That'll be so. Even Paul just signed up for golf, right? So he's an avid golfer. He's always done golf, and he's done it with business, and he's an amazing golfer. And so, like, even like yesterday, he was saying something, and he was going to meet this guy on the golf course or whatever. And people ask us, "Are you competitive? Like, are you competitive with each other? Like my numbers or his numbers or whatever?" And I'm like, no. Like, it's exciting. I get excited that he just signed up to play golf on the course with all these realtors. You know, he won an award recently. You know, it's just the person that won the award that can attend the event. It's like, are you upset that you're not going with him? No, he won the award. Like, it's this whole supportive environment that allows us all to
whether it's a marriage or a business relationship, there needs to be trust.
Yep.
You can't be threatened by whether it's your life partner or a business partner.
Yeah.
And the thing, when Vic and I came together 3 years ago, and we didn't even know, and that's a whole nother story we did discuss on a podcast once. I said, we have to, if this is going to work, we have to check our egos at the door and come together as one, and realize that even though we're all individuals, we're all working to support our own families, we will be stronger together than we are individually. Yep. And we have actually, I look at that and go, you look at what we talked about 3 years ago, and like it was some pie in the sky idea, and you go, well, that worked out really well. Yeah. You know, and honestly, you know what the funny thing is, because we're renovating our office right now. It's a complete disaster. Some of our staff are at home. There's a handful of us that aren't impacted directly by it, though the dust is killer this week because they're working on the drywall. But everybody, I was at the old office where we've got some staff working yesterday, and the synergy when you get everybody together is spectacular, and everybody is so excited to be back together again. It's like it's like getting the band back together.
Yeah, we're getting the band back together.
Yeah, and it's like, you know what? I am so excited that in 30 days we will have everybody, you know, granted, other than that couple of people that do work from home on a more permanent basis, but we'll have a place to have meetings again and have everybody back together, because you need that energy.
Well, you need the mind power, because we all have the complexities and deals, and we may need someone else's opinion. How would you look at this? What's the best way?
We do that all the time.
Yeah. And, you know, I hate being alone in the office. Today I was in the office, and all I do is I could hear all this laughing in the hallway. Everybody's laughing, walking up and down. I'm thinking, hey, no fun out there, you know? I mean, you're working. But
it's St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
We were checking out everybody's green, and somebody actually said they had green underwear. We did not check that out.
Someone didn't use a laundry machine or something?
I'm not sure. I heard that comment, and I'm like, oh, dear Lord, we're not checking that.
Oh, yeah. That's great. But I was just, you know, this morning I kind of cracked a smile. I go, God, man, everybody's having fun. Even though we got some tough times right now with the seller's market and home buyers trying to find homes. There's that room to have some fun, smile, get our stuff together, have that energy to continue fighting the fight for our customers.
I have to say that the culture of our branch, though, is a lot different than other branches that I've been in throughout my career. There's just saying that word synergy. There's that synergy. The respect that everyone has for each other, the way that we felt welcomed in the past year by everyone, that, you know, we kind of came in like, who are these, you know, who's this couple?
And you're not there. You're not there on a daily basis.
Exactly. We're only coming in maybe once a month. We're working out of our home in Rochester, and yet, and everybody has welcomed us with open arms, and the feeling we feel, not just by you two, but by the whole team, it's definitely different than most cultures of most places that I've worked in.
And you've
the
been a
past.
lot
Yeah.
since you were.
Yeah.
Well, remember, there's no fun at the top alone. You
Right.
gotta bring your people
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and that was something that was very important to me 3 years ago, because if I'm not having fun,
It ain't worth it.
it ain't worth it. And we
No.
can have bad days. And of course, we're going
Right.
to have stressful days.
Yeah.
But to be able to work together through tough situations, or to count clients that are more challenging, or
light
realtors,
dumpsters on fire.
Light
Right.
dumpsters
Or
on
like
fire.
that. I saw that.
Yeah.
Man, we got through that really
What a
well.
moment.
What a moment.
moment.
Yeah. So, that culture is important to me.
is.
It's not that it's more important to me than loans or the unit
Well,
count, because if we're taking care, if we take care of one another as a team, as a branch level, I know that the motivation of my sales team is going to go out there
Yep.
and take care of their customers even better, so that we don't have to worry about.
And you
the
don't
mortgages.
care. The office, the team doesn't care if it's a $70,000 loan or a $700,000 loan,
Right.
Which is the same thing about the culture. Is like we're supportive of all of our clients, no matter the loan size. We're not looking at that. Okay, what are we making on this loan? No, we're looking. How can we help this individual at 70,000? How can we help this individual at 70?
Everybody's treated equally.
You know,
and they
equally
all have
treated.
the right.
I
and
love that.
because some lenders won't do the lower loan sizes anymore.
No.
My wife always says, she goes, business is easy in America. She says, take care of customer, always have customer. It's pretty simple.
Yes.
And we loan officers treat each of our own loan officers as a customer.
Yes.
Take care of customer, we will always have
And
customer.
the staff, the processing staff that
They
we
are
have
all our customers.
is
Because
bar none the best.
We have to serve them. We have to give them information. They have to serve us. We have to live with each other. We spend more time together
as our work family.
as our work
100%.
family than we do at home.
Yeah.
We better get along.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. And back to the 70 and the 700, I think that's the other variety. So again, being in and out of this business for 20 years, I've seen that. Like I've seen where people don't care as much about the smaller loan size. And something I've realized too is the generational, the legacy. And I'm sure you both have this, plenty of stories about this. Just how you take care of the parent, then you take, then they have a family, you take care of their kid, take care of their cousin, you take care of the sister-in-law.
That's the FBI. That's the fathers or brothers and in-laws.
There you go.
So you got to put that in your archive.
I like that. I like the FBI.
Yeah.
And I love that, because if you treat each customer equally, you're going to not only make them happy, but they're going to tell everyone about you.
Well, our business is referral based, and if you take care of customer, you always have customer. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to put that on a business card?
I like that.
Yeah, that could be your tagline.
Well, going back to your motivation that you mentioned when you first started 20 years ago, and your motivation was like, I'm going to make all this money. And you've seen that, your motivation change over the years. And that's the way we are, as far as like, you know what, we have the passion. We like helping people. It's the reason why I got into finance in the first place, was to help people with their finances. And now we can do it with their home loans. And that the money will come.
It'll come
based on doing the right thing with everything else.
Well, and when you talk about that, there's a case of the wants and the needs. I want to make $1 million. I want to close a bunch of loans. I want a big house. Want.
Yeah.
I want to lose weight. Well, what do you got to do to lose weight? You need to eat better. You need to exercise. You need to do this. It's the same in building a business of mortgages and the customers. You need to do this. You need to be non-self-serving. You need to educate, period.
Exactly.
And how many consumers have we had that have come to us? Like we had that one last year I talked to you about, where he was in his mid 500 credit score. And it was not because he had super bad credit. He just didn't have enough credit lines. So he didn't have zero credit, but he didn't have good credit. So we coached him, gave him advice. This is what you do. This is how you get your credit score up. And now this spring and summer, they'll be ready to buy a house.
Well, it's funny. I've dealt with a lot of clients that we were not able to approve now. And I always tell my clients, it's not if, it's when. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves
100%.
with us, we'll roll up our sleeves. We'll give you a plan, follow a plan, and we will take you to the promised land.
Yeah.
Right. I think, for a lot of consumers that are intimidated by the .com mortgage companies or the 800 mortgage companies, I talked to a young man last week or this week that said the same thing. I don't think I'm going to buy this year, but my Nana told me to call you so that I could start to get some information that I need to know to prepare to possibly buy in a year. You know what? I'll take the time to talk to that person.
Yes.
It doesn't matter to me whether they buy this year, next year, or in 3 years.
And, and with me, I have the background. Like I was a 500 credit score person 10 years ago when I left my family. They had saddled me with debt. I had $100,000 of debt, and I freely tell my story to these people because I think sometimes, like you said, intimidation is a factor, and they like to hear that, oh, you came from that background.
Well, they want to see that you hurt, you feel, you're human.
You're human.
Right.
So I went from that to now I have a home, I have a family, I have the life of my dreams because I did the work to get here.
Right. And now you can write a book on all the things you should avoid.
I do have a book.
Yeah,
I do
she
have
does
a book.
have a book. Yeah.
You got a book?
I got to bring you an autographed book, man.
Yeah, we need an autographed copy for the
I'll
office.
trade you an autographed book for an autographed CD.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
So
I don't have anything. I have not published anything. I feel so left out.
So I would like to share a phenomenal success story based on what we're talking about. And I actually just closed on this loan yesterday. So had a client who contacted me last summer, in the middle of summer, looked at everything and determined that we could not get her the loan for a purchase for her first home because she had a bankruptcy less than 2 years ago. And with the FHA rules, you have to wait at least 2 years from the bankruptcy, Chapter 11, I believe. Yep. And so we looked at it. I said, you know what? I'm sorry.
So Chapter 11, that was a self-employed? Is that a
No,
reason?
7.
Oh, 7?
Probably
Chapter
a 7.
Chapter
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, 11 is business, 7 is personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, it was no fault of her own. She had a medical issue and had had a major surgery, missed 6 months of work, and went bankrupt because of this. Okay. And so, I talked to her and I said, I'm sorry, we can't do anything, but I'll put a follow-up in my calendar for December 1st because the bankruptcy had been discharged.
For 24 months.
Yep, for 24 months on November 30th. And so I put the follow-up. I called her that same day, December 1st, and said, hey, would you like to reapply? We can see about getting a pre-approval. And she was super excited. She was like, thank you for following up. Absolutely. We just closed on her
So this
home
was
purchase.
December of 21. Now it's February or March of 22.
Yep. And we just closed on her home purchase with an FHA purchase with a MISHDA down payment assistance loan on top of it.
Okay.
And we closed it 40 days from the application date. We could have closed it in the minimum 33 days because a week ago we could have closed it, but the seller wasn't ready.
Wow.
The listing agent was a broker. He has 12 agents under him. He was at the closing and he was raving about the fact that we closed this with a MISHDA loan so quickly. He told me straight out.
Did he understand the backstory on the client?
I didn't want to go into her personal, situation, but he absolutely loved the client. He was very happy for her. And he told me straight out, he said, I thought this was going to take 2 months at least. He goes, my experience with lenders with a MISHDA is it takes 2 months at the bare minimum. He goes, I cannot believe. And I drove an hour away to go to the closing to support my client. He goes, I can't believe that you did this. I gave him my cards. He goes, I am going to personally take a picture of your card and email all 12 of my agents.
That's how you do it.
And
take care of customer.
And all from a follow-up of a customer that we couldn't help last summer.
And most people would have swept her under the rug, never called her back, and not helped her rebuild from a tragic health
situation. And now she owns her first home.
Yeah.
And is
Congratulations.
saving $400 a month from where she was renting.
And
all
you know what?
of it.
That's a great point too. And we've chatted about this before on our podcast, but rents are going up exponentially right now with inflation.
If you can find one.
If you can find one. So, and I tell first-time home buyers all the time, look, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the market, but the shortage of housing today has nothing to do with why we had a real estate crash in 2008. And you will help protect yourself from inflation by becoming a homeowner. I'm not going to say that the water heater is never going to break, right? But wouldn't you rather be independent, replace the hot water heater when you need to, and not have to deal with your rent's going up?
And you're building equity as opposed to every month money going towards nothing.
Correct.
You have nothing to show for it.
What is the interest rate on your rent check?
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Right.
100%.
So what difference does it make if interest rates are 3.5%, 4.5%, 5.5%,
That's a really
for
good
God's
point.
sakes?
Yeah. Really
you
good
know,
point.
if you're paying a landlord that interest rate is 100%
Mm-hmm.
with no ever chance of return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's unbelievable.
And
It is.
you know, look at life. Look at some of the challenges that we have all had individually. You know, you can grow from them and you grow through them and they make you stronger. But if you don't risk, there is no chance of growth and no chance of reward.
Well, I don't even know if it's so much of a risk. You gotta have a roof over your head.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
you do.
Period.
You do.
And if you can buy for about the same monthly payment of rent, or in some cases
A lot
less,
lower, yeah.
all you're doing is coming up with some down payment and some closing costs, and
Mm-hmm.
now you have that opportunity to create wealth through the vehicle of real estate.
Yes.
You're buying a stock. Don't sell it when it's low. You're in for the long game, and it's a
Right.
part of your portfolio.
Right.
You've got real estate, you've got stocks, you've got mutual funds, you've got bonds, you've got other things. It's just the natural course to create wealth.
And
And people are talking about high interest rates, but if you look at the charts,
Historically, they're not at all.
they're still very low
Real-
interest
yeah,
rates.
Since
very low.
1972, the last 52 years, the average interest rate was 8%, and the average was paying 1.5 discount points to get that.
loan.
To get that.
Right now, what are we? March 22. We're at about
A little over 4%.
4.5% APR or something like that. That is relatively still low. We are right now in October of 2019 interest rates, right? We're about where we're at there. So
Yeah.
we had the pandemic, which was horrible, but it was great for rates. And everybody's memory is a little short term.
It's so short. We talked about
You know,
that.
so we're just right back to pre-2019.
Right.
So
don't-
So someone
yeah.
fell asleep and
Yeah. For the last 3 years.
in March of 2020
Yeah.
and just woke up,
Yeah.
they would be the same rates.
Yeah.
You go, what the hell are you talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. I tell my clients too, we're going to help you manage your mortgage.
Yes.
It is not a set it, forget it, get a loan and never look at it for 30 years. Even if you stayed in that house, that is not a wise decision. I have somebody right now, we're trying to refinance out of a 6.5 interest rate.
They're still out there.
And they've been in that house for like 17 years. So I go, well, 17 years, nobody helped you manage your biggest asset. You know, she could have saved a lot of money, but here's the good news. She's got a ton of equity. We can save her a lot of money a month by refinancing, consolidating some debt. You know, it's all relative. If rates go down in 2 years, we'll call people and say, let's review where you are and let's come up with a strategy to see if you're in the
20
best
years
position.
ago, we had an Excel spreadsheet and we would handwrite, notes and reminders to call them in
Yes.
a year, in
Yeah.
2 years. We had these,
Yeah.
things that we created like softwares to alert us. Now technology is so high advanced, it happens automatically. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, rates went down, rates
Here,
went
you-
up.
we get
Call your
emails
client.
now. Call Sally
client.
Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell many clients that, they say, well, you're probably going to have about 7 mortgages in your life, because,
Oh, I've had a lot more than that.
yeah. But, when
You're also buying for others.
But when rates go down, I say, that's like a stock, right?
Yeah.
We have a house. It's like a stock is splitting. Now you're getting more shares because we're able to refinance this at a lower rate.
Yes.
So
Yes.
don't, like you said, Danielle, don't set it, forget it.
Yeah.
We're going to take advantage of what is the best opportunity on the market at that time for that particular situation in your particular life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
To help you create that wealth through real estate or deal with a life-changing event.
And
And that's
talking
what-
talking about consolidating debt, how many people are out there that have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in credit card
lot of
debt? A lot. And they're paying 17, 18, 19% interest rates.
Or higher.
25%. And they don't realize that they have been building at the same time equity in their home,
Right.
where they could do a cash out refinance, and 4.5%, everything at 4.5% is a lot of money saved.
I get that argument all the time, and then they say, "Well, I'm not rolling 30,000 in my car and all that into my mortgage,
Yeah.
right? I don't want
I'd
to
rather pay 25%
I don't want to pay
interest."
my car for 30 years." And I said, "Well, hold on a second." I go, "Okay, how about let's let time pay
Yeah.
for that?" And they
Yeah.
go, "What do you mean?" I'll say, "Well, if you were renting right now for the last 3 years, how much equity would you have?" I'd have nothing. You've been in this house 3 years. How much equity do you have to take out? 30,000. So who actually paid that?
Yeah.
Time
Yeah.
gave you that. Let time pay off your debt.
Right. Well, and let's be honest, we want to be very wise with our customers and how they handle refinancing. We don't want to put anybody into a position they can't afford their house.
Yeah.
But if life circumstances have given you a situation where you've now got a ton of equity in your house, okay? dramatically in the last 5 years, our homes have gone up dramatically, and you have debt or you have a higher interest rate mortgage, we can not only save you money, but help you pay your house off faster.
Yep.
Right.
Right? We've been able to take people and say, okay, let's use this equity, eliminate the debt, and then maybe accelerate the mortgage, and we're still saving you $1,000 a month, $1,500
Well, that's
a
what
month.
we do with the mortgage coach spreadsheet. When I give them a mortgage coach spreadsheet, it's got 3 or 4 scenarios.
About that.
I mean, it is really, people love it. People eat those numbers up because numbers don't lie.
Right.
I can tell you whatever I want coming out of my mouth. I
always say figures don't lie, but liars figure.
But liars figure. It's true. And so when you email a client and you say, here's your 3 or 4 options, this is the interest you're paying over time, this is the total cost analysis of this loan, people love that. I don't care
when they see that they're going to save, $50,000 over the, next 10, 15 years.
They're like, their eyes bug out.
They don't think of that.
This would take shoppers away because you're giving them, here's a rate, you want a lower rate, pay points, you're just teaching them.
You're teaching them. And investors, we've talked about, you and I and Danielle and Paul have talked about investment loans. If you're going to be an investor, you got to pay a point.
Right.
If you're a consumer just doing a primary residence, doesn't really make sense to pay a point. Not really.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Right.
So that's why the spreadsheet comes in super handy. We used to do it again on Excel, plug all those numbers in, do all the spreadsheets.
4 hours later.
Right, 4 hours later. Now with
And hope you did it right.
you can attach a video to this. Clients love the video portion. So I'll do the numbers. I'll put my pretty little face and say, this is, and I highlight all the lines. This is what you're getting. This is why this makes sense. And then I say, at the end of the day, it's your choice, but this is my advice. If I was you, it's your choice. What strategy do you like?
That's excellent. Now I want to understand a little bit more. We'll have another conversation, but we got to wrap up the show here.
Wow, that went quick.
So the good news is Monica has a table.
So we got to wrap up the show.
Gotta wrap up. There is some green beer waiting for us across the street.
So Paul and JoJo, first of all, give us your website and your phone numbers there so clients can get a hold of you. And then any final words you have for our consumer or our real estate professionals.
Go ahead.
So my website is josephinedries.com. My nickname is JoJo. I go by JoJo, but my website is josephinedries.com.
And your cell number?
Cell number 734-385-6170, 734-385-6170.
And Paul?
My website is Paul Dries, and it's Dries, so pauldries.com. And my number is 248-622-9927.
Any final words for our consumers? At all?
When you look for a loan officer or a real estate agent, look for someone who's going to educate you and give you the best mortgage and real estate option for your specific needs.
And you get a 2-for-1 team.
Yay!
And that's it for today. Danielle, it was a wonderful show today.
Very great.
And,
Thank you guys for coming on.
thank you for having us.
And everybody's
fun.
And everybody's got to remember, we all got to come together and we got to try to get along.
Yes.
Thank you.
This world